Good evening, one and all. Welcome to Leaders Connect 360. Leaders Connect 360 CSR initiative by Visa Training and organized by the Mask Leadership. My name is Yugandhar, currently working with Everest MS Technologies as Associate Manager HR. Leaders Connect 360 is started with a specific objective of inviting 1,000 plus leaders and create a million leaders, a hybrid model leadership community where every Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. we learn from top management leaders on Zoom Live. And once in 3 months in each city, we will have an offline networking meet to network, support, and grow with the leaders. That's when we call as Leaders Create More Leaders. Currently, all are muted, and we will be giving an opportunity to speak to our guest, Mr. Jagannarayan, Director at CRISIL Limited. But before that, let me also share that we are currently live on LinkedIn, and this episode LC094 is being recorded. For the visitors who are joining the first time, you may also click on the WhatsApp, Facebook, and LinkedIn on the chat box to get updates on weekly basis and join us in creating more leaders. Also, we request all our members, visitors to turn on your video, which helps in making the episode highly interactive. So, are we all ready to interact with our guest, Mr. Jagannarayan, Director at CRISIL Limited, on the topic of infrastructure spends, Road to Indian Amritkaal? Then please type yes in the chat box. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. Before the introduction of the guest, let me also take the privilege to introduce founder of the Leaders Connect, Mr. Prakash Sharma, who will have interaction with our guest along with the panel discussion leader, Ms. Archana Sreeram, Human Resource Specialist. I vote to Prakash.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Mr. Prakash will be joining us shortly. He's on the way. Thank you, Ms. Archana. Thank you, Mr. Jagan, for joining for today's episode. So before starting the episode, I have a quick short introduction video about our guest and Ms. Archana also. So let me share the video, introduction video of our guest. Yes, I hope the video would be nice and interesting. So before starting, I give this Mr. Jagan. I believe you joined the session. Mr. Jagan, am I audible? Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I was on yes, Mr. Jagan. Thanks for joining today's episode, Mr. Jagan. Yes. Thanks for coming today.
Sure.
We are really happy to invite you as a guest of honor for today's episode for the Leaders Connect 360. And yes, I hand over the session to Ms. Archana. You can take over the session for the panel discussion, Ms. Archana. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Yes, yes. One second. Yes, Archana. Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Thank you, Arun. So, hello, Mr. Jagannarayan. Good evening.
Hi.
Nice to have you in the session here. So, we are looking forward for a session wherein, it's very much different and what do I say, a lot more insightful than all the previous other sessions. And this being said, we are of the assumption that infrastructure basically means the physical, the basic physical and the organizational structures such as roads, buildings, and bridges. So does it mean the same, or is it something more? This is the first thing which you would like to know from you. And most importantly, is it really required to spend on the infrastructure? Because right now we are living in an era wherein we are going for work from home a lot, and people are becoming lazy in the aspect that many of them are resorting to staying inside the house. So this being said, is really spending on infrastructure required? Please throw some lights on that.
Yeah, sure. And first of all, thanks for inviting me to be a part of this discussion. Extremely honored and happy to know that the great work which is being done by the organization, and yes, leaders connect and make more leaders. So thanks for that. And let me just take that question in terms of the need for infrastructure at all. So I think at the end of the day, infrastructure is the backbone under which a lot of things get built out, right? So when you say infrastructure, you're right. It's all about road, rail, power. So even if you're saying you're working from home, you'd still need electricity, right? So we are all connected because of that. So there is an internet and all of that. So infrastructure to that extent is all encompassing in its nature, and hence the need for investing in infrastructure will continue to be there, at least from a country like an India, where we are still in the developing stage, and we are still called as the emerging economy, and really not the where we have emerged ourselves. And even in terms of developed countries like let's say in US or the European countries, the infrastructure is the single focus point for them. Hello, am I there audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible. Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Sure. So sorry, I'm logging in from a hotel in Delhi. I was traveling, so if there are some network issues, just bear with me. So that's the whole context in which, if you look at infrastructure itself, there is no getting away from investment in infrastructure. We, as the government of India, is looking at wanting to become a $5 trillion economy or a $10 trillion economy, then the need to invest in infrastructure will get accelerated, will be more pronounced. We are probably under-investing in infrastructure, and hence the need to invest will only increase. The interesting part of the other question that you asked is, what is infrastructure itself, right? So infrastructure just does not mean only the hard infrastructure. There is infrastructure which is in the social side of the whole part of it equation. It could be the health infrastructure, it could be the education related infrastructure. So it's quite, and now we even got digital as an infrastructure medium. So I think it's quite all encompassing in its nature. Whichever is going to be a conduit for manifesting itself into multi-fold development, where you have a one-to-many kind of a relationship, means the investment to what you would get as output is one-to-many. That can be in a way called as infrastructure, and hence that need will only go higher and higher as we become an economy from the fifth largest economy to the second, fourth, and third, and onwards. This will only increase. So I'll just stop there and then probably take on further questions from you.
Thank you for the explanation, Jagannarayan. It was actually very much explanatory, I would say. So here's the second part, which I would really like to know. So they say that every coin has its two sides. So same way, when we look at infrastructure spending, we often see it as a rise in inflation. Let me give a small example. So recently, when we saw a rise in the prices of diesel and petrol, so slowly we saw that there was a rise in the commodities rates also. So is it rightful to say that infrastructure spending can increase the inflation? Am I audible? Because I guess your video is off right now.
Yeah. So I'm having some bit of a bandwidth issues. I just put it on. You're audible. Yeah.
So I'm done with the question. Did you happen to hear? Shall I repeat it?
Yeah. Sure. Sure. No, I got it. So inflation has multiple reasons why inflation kind of comes through, right? And one of it, and there are two types of inflation. There is a whole price inflation, and then there is a consumer price inflation, which is there. And hence, infrastructure and inflation, in a way, may not be directly correlated. It is only the infrastructure spend which comes across from the government has a lag effect, if at all. And then that money circulation can come into the economy. Once that money circulation happens, then probably there is a possibility that you may get into a situation of inflation. So the larger point I'm just saying is that there is a possibility that, yes, when you continue to spend significantly and for a large point in time, then that could be possible. But in India, hardly is there any need for concern that if we have to invest or continue to invest in the infrastructure will lead to anything on the inflation side. So I think we can be rest assured that this is not something which should be a botheration. Today, the inflation is probably for reasons beyond that of infrastructure. It is more the global political scenario which is leading to that kind of to the inflation part of it. So I think in a way not correlated, and hence I would say there is no risk as far as inflation and investment is concerned.
Okay, that's something I would say I was not expecting this as a response as such. Whenever we ask questions, we always have an answer in our mind that, okay, this would be the answer which is going to come across. This was nowhere in my mind that this was going to be a response. So thanks a lot for that. Okay, now when you were giving your response, when you're giving your answer, you also stated that the spending which is from the government side. So could you also throw some lights as to how exactly this infrastructure is funded, how it is taken care of, how it is sponsored and this? Shall I repeat, Mr. Jagannarayan?
Yeah, the last part I missed you. Can you just come back on what did you say the last part?
I repeated. I was just asking that how is this infrastructure funded or taken care of?
Yeah, so that's a very, very good question. In fact, the whole of infrastructure is based on this question, and hence I may not be able to do justice even if I have to talk about this for the next 15-20 minutes, but I'll try and break that into parts and very much thematic in its nature as well, because when we are saying the infrastructure as the growth path for India to become in the Amritkaal, which would mean that where is the money going to come from, right? So I'll just give you some numbers. It may look a bit baffling in nature, and also probably give you a sense of what we are looking at, right? So sometimes speaking about numbers will then give you a context to things, and hence appreciate it a lot better. And probably after you hear this, you will not worry about a few crores being missed here or there, because that's the nature of the beast itself. So let me, so this will be a bit long in its nature, so I'll try and break it into parts and keep it a bit more structured in its nature. In a way, today, what we are looking at in terms of the need for infrastructure, right? So if we have to look at the need for infrastructure in terms of money, is close to 111 lakh crore. Okay, so that let's sink in. So means 111 followed by 12 zeros. Okay. So you keep adding those zeros, and when you get tired of it, and that's the kind of investment which is needed in the next 4 to 5 years. So it's not a long journey. It's just in the next 5 years. That's the kind of investment which is needed. So once you understand that it's 111 lakh crore, that's why I said a few thousand crores here or there would really not matter in the larger scheme of things. Now, where is this money going to be coming from, right? So traditionally, the investments that has come in either by the state government or the central government or the private sector. Broadly, these are the three areas that you could look at where the investments will come. Okay. And this broad split has been about, excuse me, so about 40% of this money comes from the state government. Similar 40% would be from central government, and about 20% or more from the private sector, right? So this is very important because depending upon the state, their maturity, the GDP that they have, these investments numbers could change slightly, but in a percentage terms, not more than about 5 to 7%, right? Broadly, this is what it would be. So some states it would be 35%, private sector would be a bit higher, other states it could be 25%, but you will all add up to this kind of a number, which is 40 kind of a 20. And that is the scenario currently. But if you were to look at it, what it was about a decade before, then the private sector participation was far higher, which was closer to about 30%. So basically, you will have about 35% state government, 35% central government, and the rest 30% coming in from the private sector. But that has kind of dwindled significantly in the last 10 odd years, and the private sector are only contributing to about 20%. So that means on the 111 lakh crore that we talked about, close to 20 odd lakh crore needs to come in from the private sector. That itself is if you were to look at it from a individual private sector's balance sheet, it's fairly a large number even then, right? So hence the financing aspect will be very important on how are you going to finance this whole the whole thing, right? So let's take each of the components further. So if you take the central government, all of the taxes that we pay grudgingly or otherwise is the way in budgetary support comes through, right? And that's what we say as the budgetary support. And that's how it gets looped back into the infrastructure. So you keep lamenting one way or the other, see how much of tax I pay, still I have a pothole, still this is not happening on place and blah, blah stuff. That's all infrastructure. So that money part of it is coming from the people through collection, direct tax, indirect tax, and gets into the infrastructure spending part of it. That's point number one. The second part of it is sometimes the users pay for availing the infrastructure. Like, for example, in a road, if you go through any of the national highways, you will be paying a toll. So the toll is getting collected. So the user pays for utilizing the infrastructure. So similar could be the case that if you go to a hospital that you may be paying for it. So many revenue streams are established. So classic being roads and the power part of it, right? So most of us would be paying for the electricity, either provided by the by a state electricity board or through a private sector. It doesn't matter, but you still pay for it. So these are all infrastructure, and the money gets pooled into developing new infrastructure. That's again the second form of financing for this. So the user pays for that, right? The third is provided by the state, again funded through the taxes part of it, is something like a water, wastewater. All of this is something where You do not directly pay for it, but still it's a service that is given by the government for the people, and hence that's again you still need to have those as in core infrastructure which needs to be built in. So that's the part of it. There are then the private sector who would come in, who would then take on many of these assets or build them. So typical, there is something called as PPP. That is a triple P, which is public-private partnership. Through that mode that you develop infrastructure, meaning let's take an airport, right? Many of you might have visited an airport in Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So all of these are private airports, right? So the private sector has come in and developed. I'm simplifying this. Obviously, there is a certain set of obligations and things which are done by the state and the central government, but I'm just saying that these are airports which have been built through a concession which has been given by the state government to or the central government to the private sector to develop an airport. So I'm just taking those examples which you would have lived and seen, so that it becomes, you understand what it comes and when it comes across. So, and in contrast, if you see an airport in Chennai or in Kolkata, these are AI airports, which are Airports Authority of India, means that the central government would have put in their money in doing it. So from the financing perspective, a concession is given to a developer and they develop it. So from a financing perspective, the private sector is putting its money for the development of the infrastructure, and then they recoup it in the form of user fee, ticket sales. Many people will kind of agree. Maybe you would take your car and go to receiving somebody in a station, but you would think twice before you take your car and go and invite somebody in an airport, because it gets charged by the hour, and it's like sometimes the cost of parking could be higher than the cost of ticket in a manner. So then there is money which gets recouped. So the point is that the person who has developed the airport gets his money out from these user parts of it, right? And if you were to see some of the airports, let's say in Bangalore, Delhi, and all of this, and Mumbai as well, you would not know whether you've walked into a shopping mall or you have walked into an airport. That's the kind of non-aero revenue experience that you get. So these are all retail, and people pay for that, and the airport developer is able to recoup the cost of developing it. So again, this funding is done it, and then people pay. So I think various ways in which you can do the funding. Even for the private sector, it is not that he goes and puts excuse me, all his money by himself. He will be going to the bank for taking and raising finance, and hence banks will again be lending money into this in terms of their equity and the debt part of it. So there is a certain set that is 30% will be put as debt, equity by the private sector. Rest 70% is financed by the bank in the form of debt, right? So again, that's another one way of looking at it. Then say a GMR airport will go into the capital market and raise money as well. So list their company, and capital market will provide, that is the equity market will provide the financing for it, right? So that's again another mode of raising finance. So I know the audience is not core finance or core infra part of it, but I just wanted to give that, saying that there are multiple ways in which money gets pulled in, and hence so not to get too worried about how will this 111 12 zeros will come through. It does come through. And just from a context perspective, our own government budgetary support at the central government is close to about 7 lakh crore every year, right? So that's again 7 followed by 12 zeros. So lakh crore is 12 zeros. So that's the kind of investment which goes across in creating infrastructure to make government makes these kind of investments to make our life easier, simpler. So I think probably the next time when we want to comment something a bit negative on the government, maybe we should look at all of these zeros and say, okay, they're still doing a fairly great job in putting things together. Yeah.
Rightfully said, Mr. Jagannarayan. The big number, oh my goodness. I was actually putting it into mind as to how many zeros are going to be there, and you actually told me, so it made it easier, but it went out of my mind. So the big number which you stated, you would be aware of this butterfly effect. That is, some flapping of wind here is actually going to lead to a tornado on the other end. The same way, when we actually speak about a huge amount of money invested from the central government, the state government, the private, so is it like only the people who are associated in using those infrastructure are benefited? Or is it going to lead to effect on the larger end or a smaller end, or any directly, indirectly on the other end as well? So could you also throw some light on the sectors which are going to be benefited by putting into action this infrastructure, or by infrastructure spend?
Yeah. So yeah, sure. So see, that's what it is. And why does government does all of this, right? So there must be a reason why government is putting a lot of money into this, and I'll go probably may not be able to do a complete justice of it, but try to paint a picture which will give a fair idea of what we are in store, right? So if I take an infrastructure part of it, some of the things that directly get impacted is something like a steel sector, cement sector. So these are the at the core where you will have a significant amount of impact which happens. Then there is something else called as the direct employment, and there is something which is the indirect employment, which is there, right? So the impact from a capital to invest, also we have something called as the ICOR, that is the investment to capital output ratio, which is there. So here the impact is far higher, and infrastructure is a way to prime the economy. So that's how they look at it. Once you put across the money in the infrastructure part of it, that leads to a lot of secondary and a tertiary level of impact which happens. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you're audible, Mr. Jagannarayan. Please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry. So that is why they would want to kind of so the government or anybody wants to make these investments, which is there. So if the order of investment to output will vary between 3 to 5 times. That means if I put 1 crore of rupees in the infrastructure, then 3 crores is the kind of output that I can get by this 1 crore. And hence it's a very, I wouldn't call it as a easy, but a very calculated way in which you would want to make that impact come through. Because you will have to put your plants, a steel plant or a cement plant, for putting that cement plant and the steel plant. So just give a context. India has the second largest is the second largest producer of steel. Not sure how many would know. So first is China in the world, right? And next is India. And we do not export much, being even the second largest producer of steel. All of this gets consumed within India. So that's the kind of demand which is there. And when I say we don't export, in context is that not much. So maybe about 5 to 7% we may be exporting, but that's more strategic in nature to some of the neighboring countries and things like that. But much of it is getting completely consumed in India. So if you make these investments to have a steel plant come through, it's again a 3 to 5 year journey, right? To have a steel plant, a cement plant come through, again, it's a 3 to 5 year journey. The kind of employment it will generate, the kind of skill set it will generate, it's quite mind boggling. To make these steel plants and cement plants come across, and once the steel and cement is there, then you need to, transport to them, right? So everybody knows out here, our east part of the country is having a lot of natural resources. But in terms of your economic development, it is more on the west side of the country, which is like, say, Gujarat and Maharashtra, Karnataka, all of that. So the origination is on the east side, the consumption is on the west side. So even for you to do the transportation part of it, that means the logistics part of it, will then create a lot more employment, right? So that is why, so you are having a nature in which that money you put has a multiplier effect. And hence it is a sector that is very well or very keenly watched by a lot of people. What is the spend which goes across, and this creates hard infrastructure. So it is not something which goes away, which is not frittered away. It can be used multiple parts of it. And why would you need a road or a rail, right? So let's just look at it and from an example perspective. If I'm producing goods, right, for in the so West Bengal is known for agri part of it because the Ganges flows across the country, maybe UP, West Bengal, and all of these countries. So it has a very agrarian. So let's say even take, for example, Andhra Pradesh. It's the rice bowl of India. A lot of horticulture produce is made out of this. You need to have access to market. Right? You can produce it out here, but consumption is going to happen somewhere else. And in a cost-effective manner, you need to get this across from point A to point B. You need to have an infrastructure which is good and which can move in a very seamless and a time-bound manner. Today, the food part of it, if I were to take, we produce enough and more for the countrymen in India, but I read somewhere about close to 15% of this food gets wasted as perishable when we are doing the transportation. And why is it getting done? Because you don't have enough and more infrastructure developed which can preserve this. So what are you saying? That means this is the produce which has been made. You're not able to get enough of it because the infrastructure is not completely up and running. So the larger point being that you need the infrastructure for efficient movement of goods. You need the infrastructure because you will be able to prime the economy, the kind of investment and the output which comes across is in the ratio of 1:3, 1:4. So it's a very easy win, unlike many other sectors where it is 1:1. That is, you put just 1 rupee, you will get a 1 rupee as an output. Here, 1 rupee you put, you'll get 4 rupees as output. So it becomes very easy for the government to focus and put their investment in such multiplier effect part of its sectors. You're able to build capacity. You're able to get technical know-how. You're able to get the foreign sector, foreign people interested in this market, and you're able to get capital coming into these sectors. Let me also give you a kind of the statistics on a road sector, right? In the last probably 5 years, you would have got more than 1 lakh crore of investment which would have come in from the foreign institutional investors into this one particular sector alone. So it is again a place where you are able to get foreign capital, foreign pension funds. the likes of, let's say, a CPPIB, CDPQ. These are all names I know which are being put across. These are Canadian pension funds coming in from Australia, like Macquarie and others, where they're quite interested to invest in infrastructure projects in India, and hence becomes a mode of longer term. These are not hot money. This will be a money which will be there in the sector for long periods of time. To sum it up, 3 key points which I've talked about. 1, you can prime the economy. B, you're able to do an ease of movement and doing business. The 3 is able to get foreign capital.
Thank you, Mr. Jagannarayan. This was actually very good, because we are looking at infrastructure on just one side, that is just roads and stuff. And just like what he said, the point B, things become easy. But there are so many other aspects of it, just like what I said, the butterfly effect. There are multiple effects of, spending on infrastructure, and various sectors are developed. Thank you very much for letting us know on that aspect as well, and looking at it from various other perspectives and not just one perspective. So thank you very much for your session. Thank you very much for coming over here and sharing some points. Over to you, Mr. Prakash. Please take it forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Archana. And Mr. Jagannarayan, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been an awesome episode, I would say. I've been listening to every bit of your conversation which you've been discussing. And it has really gone to very deep insights as what the spend happened and which are the areas and which industries it could be done, which is really excellently shared, Mr. Jagannarayan. Thanks very much. And thanks for, in fact, joining us here also on this particular platform, Jagan. It was really great in connecting you on LinkedIn as well. And that's how you've been joined us here as well.
Appreciate it.
Good. Superb, Mr. Jagan. So, Mr. Jagan, we have now an open question for all the other visitors over here. Just 5 more minutes, and that's when we'll be doing it. So, before that, let me quickly share with all the visitors and the respective members who are here today. And let me quickly take it up. So, for people who would like to ask any questions, quickly raise your hand and we give you an opportunity to ask a question. Or if you wish to type your question in the chat box, feel free, and then we take it on your behalf and we ask the question. So either of these two, you can do it. So before we get into the open questions, Mr. Jagan, as usual, we have a quiz. So whatever we have spoken so far, one of our quiz leaders is going to ask a quiz so that we understand from the people over here, what are the key pointers taken. So may I take just 2 minutes to ask a quiz and then we return. Is that okay, Jagan? Yeah.
Sure. As long as I am not going to be answering, it's fine. Yeah.
We request your support in we request your support in checking whether that's the right answer.
Yeah,
we have a quiz leader also. So we have a quiz leader who would ask the quiz. So we request Mr. Nagaraju from Tirumala Dairy to be asked a quiz question for all our members and visitors over here today. So yes, Nagaraju, please go ahead and ask the quiz question.
Hi, sir. Good evening, everyone, and special good evening to Jagan, sir. And today you shared very much useful to each and everyone. True. And more useful to you given in detailed details about the infrastructure.
Yes.
And next, coming to my question is, what is the ways of infrastructure funding?
What are the ways of infrastructure funding? Any one or two can attend. Okay. The different ways he has shared. Yeah, so how many ways you're looking at, Nagaraju?
It's maybe 2 or 3 ways.
2 or 3 at least. Okay, that's a question to you. Okay, Sandeep Kulkarni says government, private, state. Where Prabhakaran says PPP, public partnership model, or public-private partnership. Okay. Private, central and state government, private. Wow. Anant Kumar also says certain people have written the PPP very clearly, already well in advance. That could be as a question. But different ways of infrastructure spending or infrastructure funding. I mean, how the infrastructure has been funded, correct? That was your question. And these are the ways, in fact, which has been done. So who do you think is given the first answer, Nagaraju? On the chat box.
Sandeep Kulkarni.
Sandeep Kulkarni. Okay. Great, Sandeep Kulkarni. Congratulations once again. So, as a part of government, but he has written government, private, state. Okay, government is central government, you're saying, is it?
Yes, sir.
But that's okay.
Central government and state government and private sector.
And a private sector. Mr. Jagan, is that the right or anything else to add on it? No, good.
That's perfect. So happy to see the answers. Yes, all of them are right.
Wow.
You're right. Great. Yeah.
Great, great. I mean, definitely, Mr. Jagan, you have given a much more deeper insights about all this. There could be people here who are really not aware how the investments are been happening. Now, one of the very important point which you shared was the foreign direct investments from the Canadian pension, which you're talking, right? That is an awesome information as how even Canadian pension schemes are really becoming an investment here in India. They are coming and investing in India for our infrastructure. And then that itself is again taken as return. It's awesome. So that means even India pension fund has also been utilized in the other countries, or it's just been given as a part of the business development, which should be done, through which we are actually increasing our economy or growing our economy. So, which is excellently shared again. So congratulations, Sandeep, an awesome answer which you have given. Thanks very much for the answer which you have shared, Sandeep. Sandeep, you have received the 360-degree feedback assessment. So what you're going to get is a mask leadership book as a complimentary, Sandeep. Congratulations for the same. And as we're meeting here this week, direct networking meet on Saturday at Bangalore. So you'll receive your book directly there, Sandeep.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thanks very much. Sandeep, and if you have any question, you can ask. And there are two more questions, Jagan. I believe two people have already raised their hands, so I will take those questions alone, Jagan. Yeah, Sandeep, you have a question to ask?
No, I don't have any question, but most of the things, though I'm not an economist or anyone like that, I come from IT background, but this is a subject to my heart, Indian economy, finance and all that. And I think most of the things which were covered by Mr. Jagan, I already was aware about it. So because I follow on all these particular things, so I was more aware about those things. So it was quick for me to answer. Possibly the ratio, the 40-40-20, which was covered, or 35-35-30, that was something interesting to me. And the numbers of 111 lakh crores. I think those numbers were not on my fingertips, but otherwise other information or whatever examples he gave, I was already aware about it. So thank you very much.
Completely fine, Sandeep. Every understanding and learning is more. So we keep doing it. So wonderful. Thanks very much, Sandeep, for sharing your key aspects as well, which is very nicely done. And we will meet, as I said, maybe we'll meet. Mr. Jagan, just a quick info. Every 3 months once, we invite all our guests of honor also for a direct interaction at the respective cities. So this week we have at Bangalore, which is on 10th of this coming Saturday, 10th of December on Saturday at Hotel Sterling Mac at Bangalore. We have a direct networking meet where all the guests of honors be a part of our meet, and all the panel discussions, leaders and authors who come, all a part of it. So definitely for all the people over here from Bangalore, please feel free to join us on this episode of Networking Meet 5.0, which will understand more from each other, from the top management leaders from different places. So that's it. And then Jagan, we have 3 open questions. One question is from Sendil, I believe, and then one from Prabhakar, and Nagaraj also raised the hand. So who would like to go first? Sendil would like to go first, then Prabhakar. Sendil, go ahead, Sendil, with your question to Mr. Jagan.
Thanks, Prakash, to unmute me.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Without taking much time, let me come directly to the question. So I have 3 questions here. One is we pay professional tax as a part of our salary, what we take. And apart from that, there is a education and census tax also being paid. Apart from that, we are paying 30% as a default tax from the salary band as per the income tax guideline. So how is this fund getting utilized, or where is it getting directed, channelized? Maybe if you can help me to bring this clarity, at least as a citizen of India, I would get much satisfied for the money, what is contributed from my salary.
Sure. So, yes, Mr. Jagan, the question is, please go ahead.
Yeah. So even from a tax perspective, right, there is a central pool which is there, in which the money first of all goes in, right? So your money, our money, everybody's money is pooled into that central pool fund. You will also realize it's just not the infrastructure. It is a defense, if you ever to take it, right? For the army, navy, and all of that. Again, money needs to be getting allocated. So there are multiple other places where you need to pay the central government, state government, all the salaries part of it, right? So all of that is again somewhere the money goes across. So that's called as a consolidated fund of India, in which your money, my money, everybody's money gets into that pool. Then the government decides that is where the budget exercise happens. So come February 1 in this year, that is in the next 2 months, that money will then be decided from this consolidated fund. What do I need to, and which areas do I need to make my focus sector investments happen? So in a generic manner, about 85% to 90% is pretty much known, but the tweaking happens in that 10% of the money, because allocation happens for multiple years upfront. So I can't, so let's take for example of a port. A port typically would need about 4,000 to 5,000 odd crores. I'm just giving you a ballpark number. It could be from 3,000 to 5,000 crore. And it doesn't get built in one day, right? It will take 3 years, 5 years. So if the government decides that I would want to build a port today, so they would have to make that budgetary allocation for the next 5 years today itself. And hence it goes. So if it's like a railway line, which is there. So let me baffle you with other few more numbers, and in that context, say the budgetary allocation for roads alone is about close to 1.5 lakh crore. So now tell me, what is lakh crore? How many zeros?
12.
12, no?
Exactly.
12 zeros.
12 zeros, right? So now that's just the roads part of it for 1 year. Similar would be the expenditure, which should have been about close to 1.6 lakh crore for railways. So if I have to, I would be very difficult for me to answer to you, sir, that your money, where is it getting allocated in this large pool? Right?
Because I pay 5 taxes, na? From salary we pay 5 taxes. One is professional tax, other is education cessors tax. Other than that, we pay Tamil Nadu state government GST. Then we have central government GST. Apart from that, we pay the salary income tax when it is rising below the threshold limit.
All of this goes into this large central pool and gets allocated.
But the pathetic situation is we are not getting transparency how and where and what is the utilization capacity and where is the threshold limit where we are going towards the next 5 years to see visionary India.
Yeah, but so I hope you would understand the complexity on the other side as well, right? So with so many zeros that they would have to handle, it is very difficult to say now to, and there are 100 other taxes that you would not know that you're paying. Okay, let me be frank to you. Okay, there is something called as a fuel cess. Okay, today the cost of petrol is not actually the cost of petrol, right? There is so much of taxes inbuilt into that. Correct, which you are paying. Some of it goes into the road development fund, which is there now. It is called as the infra development fund. Some of it goes for other aspects. So there is there are hundreds of ways in which the government is collecting these taxes broadly to do this whole kind of investment development, right? And this is not carved in stone. So year on year, this will keep changing. So let's say, for example, 3 years before, what was the budgetary allocation to railways? It wasn't 1.6 lakh crore. Okay, it was far lower than this. I don't know the exact number, but it was far lower than that. So it just keeps changing depending upon the priority of the government, priority of where they think that this needs to go. And that's that. It's a complex subject by itself from a democracy perspective, but that's what it is.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Sendil, for asking that question. So we had just one more question, Mr. Jagan, from Prabhakaran as well. Two more questions, Prabhakar and Nagaraju. Yes, Mr. Prabhakaran, go ahead with your question, please.
Good evening, Jagan sir. Thank you, Prakash, for this opportunity. One quick,
Pleasure.
this one, we have read about that economic hitman, the book on the confessions of an economic hitman. Then comes the recent one of Sri Lankan, this one being funded by China, then taken over by China. Now, our Indian states and Indian government separately, each one is trying to bring in foreign investments. Uh, what is your word, sir, in terms of are we not getting into that kind of a mode where we are over borrowing or uh, losing out to some alien country when we are going for foreign investments?
No, yeah, fair point. So I think what that was one which is being a strategic pursuit by a particular government in a different country will be for strategic reasons. That's one part of the whole story. That is one thing. But if you're asking whether any of these foreign funds, because they are investing in India, are we in any manner getting exposed for anything? I do not think so. In fact, I would go to the extent saying that it's a complete no. Because these are like investments done not by their government but individual companies who are looking at risk appropriate, risk adjusted returns which are more favorable than what they are in their individual countries. So they are coming into India because of various reasons. We are a growth economy, investments can be done, ability to absorb is quite high. So even if you have a pension fund and they come up with a mandate saying that I want to invest $5 billion, $10 billion, then many countries' GDP is only, in an order of magnitude to that extent. The ability to absorb such levels of money is not there in the world. So there are only very few countries which can absorb this kind of an investment when it comes across, right? And India, to that extent, is in the developing stage and hence would be able to absorb these investments and give market commensurate returns to those companies. So let's say if it is a Canadian pension fund, it is the pensioners' money in Canada which is getting invested out here. So it is nothing to do with an individual company or country and their strategic investment into a part out here. So I'll just stop there. I think we are fairly insulated. We are not, and we have a very vibrant democracy,
Yes.
All of that which is there. So I think we are in safe hands.
Thank you.
Yeah. So awesome. So Jagan, so Nagaraju, I believe you also have a question. Nagaraju, you have raised the hand. We've given the option to unmute you, Nagaraj.
Yes, sir.
A quick question,
Hello?
last question, Jagan, is that okay?
Yeah, last 2 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, last question, and then we'll come to an end. And thanks very much, Jagan. I know it's little time ahead is gone.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
thank you very much, sir. And then my question is, in 1991, the Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao announced the new economic policy. And what is the influence of new economic policy in infrastructure segment, sir?
Yeah, so we have gone much ahead in time in terms of 91 to now. That is more from a liberalization, the ability for go and open up sectors. So it has really impacted even on the infra side also. So it is not restricted to from an EPC development of the individual government part of it, but it gave an impetus for the private sector to come in and unleash their potential, and hence that is how many of the infra companies came into being. So that's probably the starting point for many of the good things which has happened in India. So and infra is one of that part of it.
Yes.
True. Great. Thanks very much, Nagaraju, for asking that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Great, Jagan. It's been an awesome episode. I would say a lot of people would have got deeper insights on the same. And really, I would like to know more and more about this. And economics is a much deeper subject, which we can do it. So as CRISIL, as you interact and you get the direct projects from the government itself as a non-profit. CRISIL is a non-profit organization, correct?
No. We are a listed company. We are a for-profit. We are one of the India's leading rating agency, and also work extensively in the economic and policy matters. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Thanks for that update as well, and that really helps us. So great to knowing you, Jagan, and it's really been nice. And we'll be doing it our offline networking meet in Mumbai during April 2023. And that point of time, there are many other guest of honors are there from Mumbai as well, and we shall keep you posted in touch well in advance. Please to join us. It'll be a networking meet amongst all the panel discussion leaders, and the guest of honor from different episodes who have joined us will be a part of us. So that'll be great.
Look forward to meeting you all.
Yes, it'll be good to meet you all there. So with that, we come to an end of this episode with all the members and visitors who are here today. Thanks very much. And to end this, we will quickly, it's time. So we'll only announce the panel discussion. Sorry, we'll announce the next week's leader, and then we come to an end of this episode with our thing. So the next week leader, I would request who's sharing? Mr. Nellai. Yes, Nellai, please go ahead and share the next week's leader, and we can come to an end of the episode by the vote of thanks as well. Yes, Nellai, please go ahead.
Good evening, one and all. Yes, sir. Good evening, and all. Thanks to Bija Training for this opportunity. Dear Jagan sir, a really wonderful session on this infrastructure spending, that is roads, railways, airports, and ports and all. And we are able to know that how spending this infrastructure really stimulate the economy for a sustainable development. And as well as on the PPP model and all, we are able to understand the long-term collaboration between the public sector as well as the private business. Before me sharing about the next week leader, let me quickly share again the purpose of the community. If you find our episode interesting, and kindly invite your contacts who will add value to the community. For the visitors who are attending the first time, Leaders Connect 360 is a hybrid model leadership community where every week on Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. we invite a top management leader from a reputed corporate company to share the solutions for our real-time challenges. Either on leading self, leading others, or leading your business, like how we have seen Mr. Jagannarayan sir share today. We from the Leadership Connect 360 invites you for our upcoming offline networking meet 5.0 on 10th December at Sterling Mac Hotel, Bangalore, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. with a breakfast to network with working professionals for personal, professional, or a social needs. That's when we call it as leaders creating more leaders. We request to kindly block your calendar accordingly. So now I'm happy to share about our next week leader. Yeah, our next week leader, Mr. Palaniappan, Group CEO at Lifelong Learning Academy, Singapore, on the topic of decision making. Join us on 14th December 2022, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. on Zoom Live. Kindly join our social media platforms to receive weekly episode registration link and updates. Members who wish to be a panel discussion can give your names on the WhatsApp group or kindly interact with Mr. Arul. I would like to thank the guest, Mr. Jagannarayan sir, for spending his valuable time in sharing his experience and solution. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, NLI, for doing it. So thanks very much, Jagannarayan. It's been an awesome episode, and we'll stay connected. Thanks for investing your time. We started using the word rather than spending, investing. So, we just started off. So
it's mutual. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's mutual. And thanks very much, Jagan. It's been really great, and we will stay in touch on the same. And
sure,
for all, yes, thank you very much for all this. Thank you video. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Okay, thank you all. So it's been great. So Arul, kindly stop the recording in the live. That will help.